Stories of the problems and difficulties encountered by African Americans trying to become lawyers are numerous. Someone had to do something, and someone did. Or perhaps I should say, some people did. We'll talk about the Mountain State Bar right now on the Law Works.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
The Law Works is made possible by the generous support of the West Virginia State Bar and the Monongalia County Bar Association.
The Mountain State Bar is sometimes called the state's minority bar. The membership is made up primarily of racial minorities and others who support their work. My guests are attorneys Wilbert Payne and Cheryl Henderson. Wilbert, Cheryl, thank you for being with us. Wilbert, for the first time, I think you haven't been here before.
That's correct.
I wanted to talk about the Mountain State Bar. Why is there a Mountain State Bar in the 21st century?
Well, I can go first and just mention that the Mountain State Bar has been in existence probably since the turn of the century. We can go back that far to our history.
20th century.
20th century, I'm sorry, the 20th century. Why is it current today? I think it's current today because of the things and the opportunities that we are able to provide to young, especially African American attorneys who are either attempting to attend law school or either entering the field of law. We also I think we're important because we reach back in our communities and provide services to the community that otherwise people would not get. We try to stay focused on legislation of what's going on in our state to make our members aware and how to lobby our different representatives in the state. So is there a need? Yes, there is a need for us to continue to do the work that we do currently. And of course, one of our main thrusts, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some point, Wilbur will discuss, is our Brown W. Payne Scholarship Fund, which is a crucial part of our organization. And I believe that we are the only organization, the only voluntary organization in the state that provides assistance to the extent that we do.
One of the things that I have become aware of over the years is there are a number of bar associations in West Virginia, as there are nationally. But most of the bar associations that I see champion causes that benefit them directly. We have defense bar associations where usually personal injury lawyers are together who defend cases working to protect their insurance company clients, their defense clients. Plaintiffs' bars and personal injury bar situations where they work to promote plaintiffs' interests, but in a sense that comes back to them because as the defense bar, they get paid for what they do. The Mountain State Bar doesn't seem to reap any direct benefit from the work that you do. Wilbert, you're the president of the Mountain State Bar this year.
That's correct.
How long has this organization existed?
Well, it started back in the 1920s based on what we can gather from the records. There were some lawyers that got together, and the history of it I would refer to Cheryl to do because she has a book that she has been reading, and she can tell you how it began and why it began. My colleague Cheryl.
I guess, I was just we were talking as Wilbur and I were driving up I-79 this morning. The Mountain State Bar originally was called the Negro Bar Association of West Virginia. And ironically, it met in 1919 in Huntington, West Virginia, where I am. You're right. We are not we're not an organization that's going out trying to pat our back. We're out here to assist people and to help others who are in need of legal services. We're not trying to promote any particular cause or any type of anything private for ourselves. It's all about the people that we're trying to help.
Who are you trying to help?
Well, I guess probably, the biggest thing, as I alluded to a minute ago, is that every year we have an annual meeting. We meet several times during the year. Actually, this year, the Mountain State Bar holds its annual meeting May 14th and 15th in Huntington, West Virginia, where I'm one of the hostesses. And one of our primary things at our banquet on Saturday night, May 15th, we award scholarships to law students or incoming law students. I don't know of another voluntary bar that does that. That is to assist these kids, sometimes not kids, young adults who want to join the ranks of being a lawyer or becoming a lawyer, and hopefully turning around and trying to assist others who need help in some kind of way. Because, we all do certain amounts of pro bono work. Besides just getting paid, it's not about that. It's about what can I do to help somebody who I know is in need of legal services. And that's what the Mountain State Bar is about. I think that's what our members are about all over the state. And we're all over the state, by the way.
And what we do is we put an emphasis on West Virginia, the students that are going to practice in West Virginia and not necessarily other states. Our interest is West Virginia.
And it's interesting that you would say that. I've had many conversations over the years with the dean of the law school. Over the years, it's been John Fisher. He has since retired from that position, and now it's Joyce McConnell. But I got the same messages. They would find young people qualified to become lawyers, but in the case of African American students, those students would be lured out of the state. There's a great desire by major law firms to be able to say we have a diverse membership within our firm. We have African American, we have white, we have female, we have tall, we have short, whatever. They want to be able to say that. They need to be able to say that. So when we in West Virginia find a promising young student, manage somehow to get them educated as a lawyer, they get lured out of state to the bright lights of the big city, I guess you could say. Your desire is to keep at least some of those students here.
That's the purpose, and that's why we have this scholarship fund, and we try to make the students give us some type of a commitment. On our form, we ask, what is your connection to West Virginia? And they either tell us or they have a connection or they don't have a connection. And we try to emphasize that, are you going to practice in West Virginia? And we want the students to stay here. West Virginia is a wonderful place to work, and I've been here for my full professional career, and so has Cheryl. And we need to keep some of the talent here.
That's true. I agree. I mean, West Virginia gets a bad rap. Let's admit it, all the way around. We get a bad rap all the way. And
That's right.
At times I get tired of hearing that we're getting a bad rap. But as West Virginians, we've got to do something about that too. And one way for us to do that is to try to encourage, especially African Americans, young students, to stay here in the state and to give back to the state that you have roots in. Help us build this state up. Help us get down from the low ranks of 49 and 48. Why shouldn't we be in the top 10? There's no reason why we shouldn't be.
And it's not only to African Americans. We also submit to people that are disadvantaged, and that could mean anybody.
Proportionately, it tends to be racial minorities who are disadvantaged. In
Proportionally, yes.
In America, not just.
But of course, we're here in West Virginia, and we know for a fact that we have a poor population. This state only has, 2, maybe 3% at the most of African Americans. So we're talking about a state that is majority white. And so we're talking economics of this state too. We're talking about young white students who don't have an opportunity, who can't get ahead because of their position in life.
But the opportunities to white students are historically greater than to racial minorities.
Even in today, yes.
I know when I was growing up, I did not come from a well-advantaged family, but if I wanted to go into the military as I did, I could fairly readily become an officer. That doesn't or didn't at the time at least, hold true for minority students. Why is it important to have African American lawyers?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess we talk about diversity. If we live in a society, or do we want to live in a society where we all look alike and talk alike, walk alike? I don't think so. I think the purpose of having a diverse legal society, whether it be African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, because we give different perspectives on the law and how it relates to the people that we may be representing. Where you may not understand, Dan, for instance, if I'm representing an African American that has dealt with a legal, you may not understand the intricacies. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
of what
individually,
that person,
I'm sure I understand everything.
but you understand.
There might be a grain of truth in this.
You know, from what but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And so yes, we need a diverse population of attorneys in this country to fight the legal battles of everyone.
It seems to me that it exists at a couple of different levels. First of all, when somebody comes to see you, they need to be comfortable with you. And if it's somebody who's been pushed around by society, who's been taken advantage of by society, they want to look at somebody with whom they can identify and have a sense of empathy, if not entirely sympathy. Because you're not sympathetic with everybody who comes to see you, but you can understand why they're there. And you just don't get there. If you come to see a middle-aged white guy, and perhaps a little past middle age now, that's just not the same if you're a young black African, or a young black woman, or a young African American woman.
I don't know about me being young either, Dan. So.
Well, it wasn't an accusation, sure. So you need to talk to somebody that you're comfortable with, right. And that happens. The other thing I have noticed, and Cheryl, well, all three of us went to law school at about the same time, the 1970s, early 1980s, and that is law has changed a lot because of the diversity that has come into the legal profession. Women are now in the legal profession in large numbers. In fact, some law school classes are more than 50% female now. Racial minorities are coming in good numbers as opposed to when we were students. In fact, when I was a student, there was one African American student in a class of 140 people at WVU's law school, which didn't seem right at the time even. But the numbers of both now, minorities and females, have increased, and the law has changed as a result of that. There's more of an awareness of where the inequities are, how the inequities can be resolved. But these changes have not, especially with regard to African Americans, come about easily, and they didn't start in 1970 or 1980. There's a long, long history that kind of formed the roots for the Mountain State Bar.
Right, and I think you're right. I think that, and I want Wilbur actually to speak on this because he is a third-generation African-American attorney.
In fact, the scholarships at the Mountain State Bar Award are named after your grandfather.
That's my grandfather.
The Brown W. Payne Scholarship Fund, yes. But Wilbur can speak on that because, yes, we go back to the turn. If you go look at history, African Americans were practicing even as late as the 1800s in the United States, all over the country. So the history can go back that far. And so you look back that far and you come forward, and yes, there is a foundation that was begun back then in the types of cases that were even being tried back in the 1920s. Is that right?
And that's correct. My grandfather had to go to Howard University in Washington, D.C. to get his legal education.
Had to go there?
Had to go. He was not allowed to go to West Virginia U at that time, even though he was not a resident of West Virginia. He was officially born in Virginia. He came out of Augusta County, Staunton, Virginia. He went to Fisk, and that was in 1907. He graduated from Howard University in 1910, and 2 years later he came to Beckley, West Virginia. Why, I don't know. But he ended up and at that time, Raleigh County and the surrounding areas had a huge African-American population. There was a need. And one of the cases that he decided, he took before the West Virginia Supreme Court was to allow black jurors on the petty juries in Raleigh County.
Blacks were not,
At that
could
time.
not be jurors.
At that time.
Well, nor could women at that time.
No, not at that time, right?
At that time.
At that
That's
time.
correct.
Right.
So
history plays a lot in the whole profession as it comes forward in time. When you look at the type of cases that African American lawyers were trying in the 1920s and 30s, actually it boggles your mind that these were men who were going before the West Virginia Supreme Court and arguing cases. Can you imagine 1925, what that would have been like? And they're setting law and setting precedent that we're still following today.
Reviewing some of these cases that had to be litigated, it seemed to me as if every facet, every issue involved in a black lawyer's life or in the life of the black community had to be litigated. Do I have to work the same number of days? Do I get to work the same number of days? Do I get the same amount of money? Can I, as an African American, be on the jury? Or do I have to sit somewhere else? Do I have to, can I even go to the courtroom and sit with other people in the courtroom? If you remember the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, the blacks in the community had to sit
in the balcony,
right, to keep them away from everybody else, and that's without addressing separate bathrooms, water fountains, restaurants,
right,
although we have litigated all of those things too. At the danger of making it sound as though West Virginia was somehow different from other places in the United States, it wasn't really.
No,
was it?
no. In fact, even I think we could agree we all practice law. Actually, West Virginia actually has been pretty progressive in its thinking as far as certain legal areas of law, because as you know, we've got states: Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas. Those states were following, or back in that time, had the same problems as West Virginia. So no, it wasn't a centralized thing here in West Virginia. It's all over the country.
And you find the same reaction within the legal community to it too. I did a little online research and found that it seems that every state, every major city has what we can generically call a minority bar. That the lawyers in each of those communities have gotten together to represent the interests of the racial minority community.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. Pretty much every state has what we consider a minority bar association. Every state, and some cities actually have them. I am a member of the National Bar Association, which is a national organization of minority attorneys that functions the same way as the ABA. Is really on the same level as a national organization. And
was created for a reason beyond just promoting your interests. The ABA
exactly,
didn't want
right.
you.
We can go back in time too. The same thing with the Mountain State Bar. When it was started in 1919, blacks were not allowed to join. They could not go to bar meetings in Cabell County, Kanawha County, Raleigh County. That's the reason why this was started. The NBA, National Bar Association, was set up the same way because the ABA excluded blacks also at that particular time. But the National Bar Association, is sort of an umbrella where we have all the bars that fall up under it. And it is a well-organized organization that provides services for attorneys all over the country, a networking thing. I attend their conference every summer. And so it just boggles your mind when you go and you see other African American attorneys who actually are living in small communities and small states just like I do, and who are faced with the same kind of realities of representing the people where they live.
The importance of attorneys being able to meet together and exchange ideas cannot be understated. There are continuing education requirements for lawyers to go and learn about particular areas of law or particular facets of a particular area of law, just as there are for physicians and engineers and nurses and school teachers and other people. In public broadcasting, we refer to it as lifelong education. It's something that happens. But beyond that, you need the ability to sit down and talk with people, to have a drink, whether it's coffee or whatever you're drinking, or to share a meal with each other, to exchange ideas. I suppose as much to find out that the world's not just against you as an individual, it's against everybody as individuals, or that some things are to your advantage. But you were being denied those opportunities. It wasn't until 1952 that the American Bar Association would let you in deliberately.
That's right.
That's right.
Dennis Archer told us on one of these programs a while back. Dennis was president of the ABA for a term, and as former mayor of Detroit, I think he was the first African-American
Yes, he was.
mayor of
He was the
Detroit.
first, yes. And he was the first African-American ABA president.
Yes, that's right. He told us a story in some community in the South, I don't recall where it was particularly, that an African-American lawyer had filled out the membership application to his local bar association, and he just put J.B. Smith or whatever his name was on the application, and they never thought to say, what's your race, because lawyers were white. And when the Bar Association accepted him, and they found out that he wasn't white, they had to go visit him and explain that, no, he wasn't really a member of that bar. And they did. So it's kind of self-defense that these minority bar associations were formed originally.
Yes.
And then to try to resolve the inequities.
Right. And as time has gone on, they have evolved into what we have now all over the country. We have bar associations that provide services for their communities, programs, opportunities, as you will. This is going on all over the country today.
In West Virginia, you've done something that I think it may be unique, but it certainly is interesting, and that involves judicial clerkships. Tell us what you've done.
As far as?
Internships and clerkships with judges.
Well, we've trying to have people get into those positions.
Talking about students from
Yes, students
West
from the law
Virginia.
school.
Right.
We try to put them out there where they're eligible to become clerks with the major law firms. We've contacted them and asked them to at least take one minority so that they can learn the profession of law. I think.
Well, there's a program at WVU actually that's set up in the Mountain State Bar, works in conjunction with that, a mentoring type program to partner students with job opportunities here in West Virginia.
So it's not just judicial clerkships.
It's just it's right. It's all through. Yes,
the legal community.
It's all through.
Right.
Yes.
Those programs can be very valuable. There is a bookish part of the education of law, but there's also a hands-on part in the education of law where students try to find positions with law firms, with state agencies, to see how the law really works,
right,
so that when they go back to class, they can understand what they need to become aware of, what they need to learn to do.
Yeah, I agree, but when I first came out, I had to learn to practice law. It appears that watching over the years, the students that come out now know how to practice as soon as they hit the ground running. And that's one of the benefits that Mountain State Bar and these clerkships present for specifically the minority students and also the students as a whole that go to West Virginia University.
This is something we haven't talked about in preparation for the show. I'm just going to kind of throw it out. What do you see that still needs to be done to provide access to racial minorities to a legal education or to lawyers?
Well, I think one of the things we need to do, and I think this is one thing that the Mountain State Bar has been interested in doing, is to try to tap our kids early. When I say tap, I mean let's talk to kids as early as middle school, it shows my age, middle school, about the possibilities that may exist for them to attend law school, for them to go. So we need to stay involved, in that perspective of the law, of getting them interested and going.
And one of the ways that we do that is when we have our annual meeting, we have a program where we award, it's a plaque or some type of reward to show them that what goes on at these meetings. And they come and participate, and we try to get them from the high schools with the best grades and stuff so that they can see the African American lawyers from the state.
You tell them it's possible.
Yes.
Yes,
And
we show them it's possible.
You serve as examples. You create the impression in their mind, the understanding in their mind that they can do this.
That's correct.
It's out there to be done. Wilbert Payne, Cheryl Henderson, thank you folks for being with us. Thank you also for being with us. On behalf of the Law Works, I'm Dan Ringer. Good evening. If you want to know if you need a lawyer, you can discuss your problems with a lawyer by calling the West Virginia State Bar Helpline, toll-free, Tuesday evenings from 6 to 8 at 1-800-642-3617. On the LawWorks webpage at thelawworks.org, you'll find a listing of recent The Law Works show topics, information on how to obtain copies of the programs, and additional information about this show's topic. You'll also find a list of legal resources that can help you answer your legal questions. If you'd like to recommend this program to a friend, you'll also find video of this program on thelawworks.org. If you would like to suggest a topic for a future The Law Works show, or if you're a school teacher and would like to receive a copy of this program for classroom use, please send us an email to thelawworks@comcast.net.
The Law Works is produced in cooperation with the West Virginia State Bar, the Mountain State Bar, and the West Virginia University College of Law. The Law Works is made possible by the generous support of the West Virginia State Bar and the Monongalia County Bar Association.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.